Last time, we found out all about how Richard prepared for the pole.
Now, my day would start at 5, I'd be up, I'd roller ski for about 2 hours.
And Richard's really drawing on that fitness regime as the going gets tough in Antarctica.
Without my skis on, it was probably up to just below my knee.
This time, we're going to hear from Richard's performance director about how he's dealing with these tough conditions. Plus, we find out about the treat that awaits Richard on Christmas Day.
Chicken, parsnip, Brussels sprout.
It's gone for Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
This is Richard Parkes, Antarctica. Hello, I'm Vicky Blight, and this is the podcast following Richard Parkes' attempt to ski solo from the Antarctic coast to the South Pole, unsupported and unassisted as fast as humanly possible. It's Christmas Eve, and you could argue that given the conditions in Antarctica right now, Richard is achieving just that. He has skied for 6 days and has travelled 218.6 kilometres, or nearly 136 miles. Yesterday he skied for 11 hours and covered 34.4 kilometres, just over 21 miles in what was an epic 16-hour day in total. The weather has yet to be kind to Richard. Well, let's not wrap this up in cotton wool. It's been horrific. Antarctica is currently seeing some of the worst conditions for adventurers that the continent has ever seen. With incredibly warm conditions, the precipitation has caused masses of snowfall. Not what you need when you're man-hauling a 55-kilo sled and need to glide to travel fast. We last caught up on Friday, and this was his assessment of the conditions then.
I still haven't seen a horizon yet. The only thing I've been looking at for the last 4 days is my compass.
And while the constant whiteouts were making it mentally tough, the amount of snow was making it impossibly hard underfoot.
Well, I mean, when I say deep snow, I mean, without my skis on, it was probably up to just below my knee. That's how deep it was. With my skis on, I'd probably sink about to my ankle. And you can imagine pulling a sled behind you, that makes life really difficult. There's no glide. I mean, every single step is like a movement from the gym. It's like a weightlifting exercise for the best part of 12 hours or over 12 hours.
There was no let-up over the weekend. Saturday was another whiteout with more snow and then even snowy rain. And since then, Richard has had clear sunny skies. However, the snow remains soft and deep. Despite this, Richard is now 46.1 kilometres ahead of where he was at this point in 2014 when he set the British record and the second fastest time in history. It's fair to say that right now, Richard Parkes is putting in an effort of monumental proportions. But as far as the world record is concerned, he's about 46 kilometres behind Christian Eider, although, as we know, Christian had incredibly good weather conditions for much of his 2011 expedition. One woman keeping a close eye on Richard's expedition is performance director Nicola Phillips. What does she make of Richard's progress?
All things considered, he's actually doing fantastically well. He's already faster than he was when he did the last attempt. And he's keeping himself in the game. He's keeping himself within sight of the record time. We knew this bit was going to be hard. It was those first 5 or 6 days where it was going to be a steep incline to get up onto the plateau and then hopefully be able to gain more time after that. The weather on top of that has just made it so much more difficult. But having said that, he's prepared for it. All that strength training that he did, all those weights he shifted in the gym has got him that he can still actually be within sight of his goals. That's tough on his mind, though. That's the problem.
Well, this is the thing. I was chatting to Steve Jones from ALE just a few days back, and we were talking about the whiteout conditions and the poor visibility and just the fact that takes such concentration above everything else you're trying to do. Just focusing on your compass and your bearings and picking a spot and skiing to it and carrying on. That mental focus is in itself shattering.
Yes. I mean, essentially, he's walking uphill through porridge, dragging a sled behind him in a complete whiteout with no other visual stimulation at all. And he's now 5 to 6 days in, as you said, and that is where the reality really hits home. You know, he hasn't really spoken to anybody in that length of time. He's getting no other things that are making him feel comfortable, if you like. He's soaking wet going into his tent. So this is the point where it's almost crunch time a little bit, and he knows he's got to get through that. And knowing Richard, he will. But this will be a couple of low days, I think.
I know Richard planned to do 16-hour days and, push that kind of 45k mark each day. As you say, he's within touching distance, isn't he? But do you think the distances are playing on his mind right now?
I think at the moment, what he's concentrating on is getting through this patch. Once he gets up onto the slightly kinder terrain, it's all relative. It's a very hostile environment. But compared to what he's been through, the terrain at least should hopefully get a bit more comfortable. We just can't control the weather. He has to go through that, whatever it is. But we would like to see a little bit of sun that would really help him along, I think.
And speed-wise as well, when I spoke to him the other day, he's averaging, probably hitting about the 80% mark of where he wanted to be. And in those conditions, I mean, for me as average Joe, that seems incredible.
It's actually phenomenal what he's managing to do in those conditions. And it is testament to the work that he's put in, leading up to this as well. And yes, we really must acknowledge that achievement as to the speeds he's doing and the length of time that he's putting into doing that and then repeating it every day.
Do you think tactically it's about just keeping as close as he can, and then when the conditions improve and when he gets up onto the plateau, really, really pushing then? Is he going to have it in the tank to push for those incredibly big days?
Absolutely. That's exactly what he's got to do at the moment, is to get through this and keep as close to his target as he can. And then with all the training that he's done, he should have that in the tank to then be able to pull back some even bigger days to get more mileage again. Once the terrain gets more amenable to that, if you like.
What is the one thing that you guys prepared for that you think, do you know what, I'm so pleased we did that, because that's coming into its own now?
At the moment where he is now, it's the strength work that he did. I don't think he'd have been able to get through at those paces if he didn't have the strength in his legs. And then put that alongside the recovery tactics that we looked at, because obviously there's not a lot you can do to recover in a tent. But we looked at some simple things, such as elevating your legs when he's lying down for a little while to help try and keep the legs a bit fresher the next day, those sorts of things. So it's the combination of having the strength and then doing some sensible recovery when he gets those relatively short periods of rest.
And in terms of injuries and his body and things like that, any tweaks, we're not really hearing anything back from Richard that he's struggling with. He did tell me the other day that he had a bit of a problem with a binding that he had to fix, but generally physically, apart from just the general strain, he seems to be holding up super well.
He does, and I have checked with him when he had that little blip and he had a break for a little while. I checked with him then and said, is this pain because it's something wrong, or is it general pain because of the effort? And he came back and he said, I'm actually in good shape. This is general pain from the effort. And that's very reassuring as well. Incredible, really, that he's getting up the next day and doing the same again.
Nicola Phillips, thank you so much for chatting to us today. Hi, Mika.
Hi, Vicky.
Mika Moore, Team GB Winter Olympian, is a student at Cardiff Met's sports broadcasting course. Pupils from the course have been documenting Richard's preparations as part of Team Quest. So let's talk about food then, shall we? It's one of the things that Rich really lights up about when I talk to him. No surprise, I guess, because, he used to be a professional rugby player.
It's my favourite topic too, Vicky, and it's fair to say Richard loves his food. But what he eats, and more importantly, how much it weighs, has been a crucial part of planning this expedition.
So I'll start with these. These are 2 types of granolas.
Awesome.
These have been...
It's October and Richard is tasting food prepared for him by students at Cardiff Met's Food Science and Technology department. It's quite a tough brief. Design a strategy and make food which could power him for up to 16 hours a day in Antarctica.
Previously, I took food rations that were designed around an 8 to 10 hour day, and that was, breakfast, lunch and dinner. This time round, I'll be skiing for almost twice that. So how do I absorb and get the calories and the nutrients into me throughout the day? So that was the student sort of remit.
I read it and got thought, this is really exciting, this.
Simon Dawson is a senior lecturer at Cardiff Met's Food Science and Technology Department.
We've never done something like this before. So I made contact with Richard and asked if he would like to come in and discuss it further and see how we could help. He did a 2-hour presentation to the students and showcased what he'd done last time and what he wanted the students to do. They were all fired up after this. And then 2 weeks later, the students were actually in the kitchens making the foods for him.
When it comes to Richard's food supplies, precision is everything.
Each day will vary slightly, but my food rations are between 6,300 and 6,600 calories a day.
For context, 6,600 calories a day is more than 2.5 times what an average man should consume in a day to maintain their weight. Richard is likely to burn up to 10,000 calories a day skiing in Antarctica. So even with this intake, he's expecting to be at a deficit and lose some weight. One of the biggest challenges of this solo expedition is the science of food versus weight. The balance between getting your polk as light as possible, but also having enough fuel to maintain extremely high exertion levels for long periods is absolutely pivotal.
My food weighs 1.3 to 1.4 and a half kilograms per day.
Okay, I have my calculator out. Multiplied by...
This time round, I'm taking 25 days worth of food.
So 25 times 1.4 equals 35 kilos of food that Richard is carrying on his sled, or polk as most adventurers refer to it as. That's more than 60% of the polk's total starting weight. It's also the average weight of an 11-year-old boy, or, if you're feeling festive, 583 mince pies. Anyway, it's important to note the change in Richard's food strategy here from the last time he did this expedition.
In 2014, I took 29 days worth of food, but compared to last time, I'm taking more food per day. So my overall weight of food is similar to 2014, but I'm taking less days worth of food and eating more food per day.
So what does an average day look like?
I've got around 1,000 calories per breakfast, and I can't start a day without coffee, so I've got coffee and hot chocolate as well to start the day with.
Coffee and breakfast made, Richard packs away his tent and gets on his skis.
Then I've got snacks for every 5-minute break, every 1 hour and 15-minute blocks. So actually, I've got 12 snacks per day. I'm also using a meal replacement and energy recovery drink throughout the day. So I've actually got 3 litres of fluid. I've got recovery hot chocolate, which is, from a performance point of view, is kind of nice and kind of important. And then I've got around 1,500 calories for dinner.
Back in the kitchens at Cardiff Met, students like Daisy were starting to prepare some of Richard's rations.
It's been so difficult because he's wanted them under 60 grams, but yet over 200 calories, which has been a nightmare because he doesn't want the fat very high either. So from a nutritionist point of view, that's been mad, but it's been really challenging and good to do it.
And Richard doesn't like high fat foods anyway.
Here's senior lecturer Simon Dawson next to a very noisy freeze dryer machine.
He prefers meals that are more normal. So we couldn't increase fats too much because of his intake anyway. He likes peanut butter, so we've put in lots of peanut butter into things. We've added nut seeds and a variety of other things, even just something like dextrose and sugar. We've put that into some things as well because, he quite likes that as well.
There was a lot of ideas we had to start with, a lot of flavours we wanted to try, but obviously some things didn't work because of the calorie requirements or the weight. But yeah, and then we tried different fruits and we tried different nut butters and things that worked. And we wanted something that was sweet and something that was really, really, really high calories. So then we ended up with the peanut butter.
Peanut butter is such an essential ingredient in the breakfast granola and snacks that Richard will be eating throughout the day.
I'm a big fan of granola, and especially out here because, you can eat it dry, you can put hot water in and it's got milk powder in, so it actually becomes a really warm sort of porridgey type starch.
We made a couple of different snacks, energy bars for him.
Anita Setarenejad is one of the senior lecturers at Cardiff Met's Food Science and Technology Department.
Some of them made from a combination of chocolate, marshmallow, peanuts, peanut butter. Some of them just a mixture of different nuts, which had milk powder with it.
And then, Vicky, there's something a little special for him on Christmas Day.
Yes, I'd heard about this Christmas dinner, and it's fair to say that when I spoke to him about it on the phone, he sounded super excited. Have a listen to this. They've designed you like a specific Christmas dinner for you to have whilst you're out there, because obviously you're spending Christmas out there. So what is it? Have you got pigs in blankets? Is there cranberry sauce? I've got so many questions. Do you have Brussels sprouts? You know, what is this Christmas dinner, and just how did they go about it?
Well, actually, come and think about it, Brussels sprouts would have warmed the tent up a bit. That's probably... I'm not aware. I don't think there are Brussels sprouts in the Christmas dinner, but I could be wrong. I don't know, actually. I like Brussels sprouts, by the way. I might be one of the few people actually. Do you really? Yeah.
I love them. I love them stir-fried with some chestnuts in there and some smoky bacon, some cut up some nice... that is Christmas dinner side.
I see
done,
you've done there.
Bit of garlic.
There we go.
Happy days.
Happy days.
So the question is, Mika, have they put Brussels sprouts in his Christmas dinner?
Well, the person who knows the answer is Anita.
Chicken, parsnip, Brussels sprout.
It's gone for Brussels sprout.
Yeah, it was really nice. They roasted in the oven, so it tastes very nice. Carrots, and then they had a very lovely gravy to mix all that together. When they combined them together, and Richard tried that, he really liked it and said it's a very good combination. And the meat was his choice. So we had lamb, we had chicken, we had beef as well. But he said that he prefers the chicken to have for his Christmas.
Richard's Christmas dinner, like all his main meals, are freeze-dried. I headed to the food lab to ask Simon Dawson how the process works.
What we do here is you take the food products and you have to freeze them first before you put them into this machine. Now it's best to freeze the foods as fast as possible, so we have a blast freezer in here in which we freeze the products quickly. Then once they've frozen them, you put them into this machine and under a vacuum. As the product is defrosting, it's drawing the moisture out. So in effect it's drying the food. But because you're using very low temperatures, you retain a lot of the nutritional content.
And so when Richard is out there, he'll have all these foods there. How will he prepare them? You can't just eat it straight away?
You would add boiling water, and that effectively is it.
And obviously the calorie intake that he needs to be really high. So freeze-drying it obviously doesn't affect any of this, the values of the calories, the nutrition. It's all the same.
It's all the same, yes, once it rehydrates. Because all you're doing is drawing out the water, basically. So all the rest of it, the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates, all stay in there.
And then there's one final Christmas Day treat for Richard.
And then to finish it off, if I'm still awake at this point and not in a food coma, I've actually got a Christmas-inspired rice pudding, which is absolutely lush. For me, it's my favourite output from the project the students did. I'm really sorry. I don't want to rank them. I mean, every bit of it has been really cool, but the rice pudding is lush. It was an authentic testing session, and it was giving the students feedback of the flavours and the tastes and what would work and what wouldn't work. And I didn't realise I'd picked the pot up. I was just really relaxed. So, long story short, I'm walking around the food tech laboratory, which is a really, really state-of-the-art, really cool place. I'm walking around with this pot of rice pudding. I didn't even realise it until I'd actually finished it. And then I was like, oh, this is awkward. This is awkward. Have your pot back. Sorry, you might have to do some more work.
Here's Anita Setarenajad again.
And the rice pudding that they made, they put some raisin, which was soaked in brandy, and then they made or cooked the rice pudding in milk and cream.
Brandy, you say?
Yes, they use brandy, they use mulled wine.
Is he going to have slight problems walking in a straight line after this rice pudding?
No, it was not that much. It was quite a small amount. And also, as you're cooking the product, the heat is going to evaporate the alcohol as well. So you will end up with the flavor and not much alcohol in the product.
We're not going to have a drunk explorer on our hands.
No, I think he'll be fine.
Producer Steve always has Richard's best interests at heart. But for Anita, Richard's endorsement is incredibly important for her team.
He really liked it, and I think the students who made it, she was very happy and passionate about the product that she made. And then when Richard came to the practical and he tried the sample and he said he loved the rice pudding, it just brought loads of boost to the students when they put this amount of effort. So it was a kind of achievement for them. So the work they've done, the research they have done, all the work that they've done, it was successful. Somebody liked it.
Here's Simon Dawson again.
Richard came to a leaving party with us, and I spoke to him there and asked, could we do this every year? And I think his reply was no. For us, we've never had a brief like this, and it's putting students in a real life situation for a project that's so important is fantastic, because all of them have just, they've developed, they've worked hard together, and they've developed in themselves.
And for Richard, this sort of learning opportunity is exactly what he had in mind when he created the Team Quest project.
A lot of the students that ended up contributing really significantly to my food rations and are playing a huge part in this expedition would not have labelled themselves or defined themselves as somebody that would be really interested in this space. And that's really cool, right? Because actually, I remember that first seminar, it was pretty challenging. I tried to be as provocative as I could and as engaging as I could. And they've not only stepped up to the plate, but they've created some stuff, you couldn't buy on the shelf, right? And that's really, really cool. Really cool.
Richard ending that report by Mika Moore on the food that's fueling him in Antarctica. 2 days before Christmas, Richard sat in his tent crying for 2 hours, an indication of how difficult this solo, unsupported and unassisted journey to the South Pole is on both body and mind. His team back here have been sending him the huge amount of messages of support posted on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram to try and spur him on in these tough times, including a few words of encouragement from some old friends.
Parksy Bud is your good old mate Alfie here, Gareth Thomas. Whenever I catch up with him, he tells me about these things he's doing and wanting to do. To me, I'm like, what are you doing now?
That's next time on Richard Parks, Antarctica. Thanks for listening. To follow Richard's journey in Antarctica, click subscribe to get regular podcasts for free, downloaded to your phone when they are ready. And if you like what you hear, then why not give us a rating and a review? It'll help others find the podcast more easily. And don't forget, you can become part of the Team Quest community by following Richard's journey on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. I'm Vicky Blight. Richard Parks, Antarctica is a Bengo Media production for Team Quest.